What's going on, everybody? It's Carmine from Barmine Tech, and today's the big day. I'm announcing I'm breaking up with Windows. We had a good run. It's been about 20 years or so, but unfortunately, it's time to call it quits with Windows. Okay, so yeah, I am actually trying to part ways with Windows, but unfortunately, of course, like everybody else, I can't fully cut ties just yet. There's certain things that are just holding me back, like games, certain apps, and I can't run Linux fully on my work computer just yet. But on my simple computers that I mess around with and my VM that I kind of use as a jump around box, that's been running Linux for about a month now, and I have to say it's been a great experience. There's certain aspects of Windows that I'm just fed up with, between the bloated OS, them having no regard for my privacy, telemetry issues, and so on. And then also with updates that just run at their time whenever they want and tell me I need to reboot my computer, as well as putting out updates that aren't tested well and end up breaking my computer. So I'm looking to move it to a more stable OS, and that's going to be Linux. What really came down to my breaking point was back around the holiday time. I got a new laptop from work, and it was just full of so much bloat on there. Now, I know that's from the manufacturers putting what they want on the Windows, but there was just so much bloat, and even normally there's so much bloat and extra services that are added into Windows that I just don't want and don't need. So this is why it really pushed me along to going over to Linux. Like I said, it's been about a month. I'm having a great time. It's working really well for what I need, and that's why we're making this video. So we're going to cover some of the differences between Linux and Windows. We're going to talk about hardware differences, some of the other features that are available and aren't, and some good distros to check out if you are looking to move over to Linux. So let's get right into it. To start off, I did write up kind of a little bit of a distro, and it's going to kind of be a work in progress. I think I might have to tinker with this a little bit more, but I will have this in the description if you want to check it out. I've been kind of adding to it, and it's a little out of order, but I think it will work for the most part and get the idea across. So when it first comes to comparing Windows to Linux, it's going to be the hardware requirements. When we take a look over here, this is going to be Windows on the left, and over here is going to be Linux. It's going to count for pretty much the common distro, but it may vary by some of the unique ones. The big ones to start with is RAM. You can see with Windows 11, we are going to need about 4 gigs as a minimum, and realistically, it's not going to run too good on just 4 gigs of memory. Over here, when we look at Linux, as long as we have half a gig, it's happy, but we can run, ideally, we are going to be looking for at least 2 gigs or more. Hard drive space is the biggest one, and this is the one part about making a Windows VM that I can't stand. It's that to make out a VM, just do a simple quick test, I need to give it 75 gigs or more of hard drive space just for the system to be able to work. However, it's totally different on Linux. I can make it work on 10 gigs of storage, and we're happy to go. Another big one that is really unpopular, I mean, it's kind of mixed. Some people don't like it because of the hardware needs, and others are, and I understand its importance, but the TPM, you can no longer install Windows on a system without a TPM, where on Linux you can install it without the TPM and it doesn't care. I do understand that TPM is there for security purposes, but sometimes it's just not needed for the average home user or when we're trying to spin up a VM. Another big one is don't forget the internet. If you want to set up your Windows 11 computer, you can't do it without internet anymore unless you kind of do some of the bypasses, which isn't always recommended, but it is an option. For Linux, you could install without internet and anything else, and it's happy to go. Tying in with the internet usage is that Microsoft account. So Microsoft is forcing them to have an account with them to be able to set up your Windows computer. So on top of being required to have that internet connection, you also are going to need a Microsoft account so you can go online and sign in and blah, blah, blah. There are ways around this, like I mentioned, but it shouldn't have to be something that I need just to set up my new computer so I can start working with it. Like I was mentioning, some of the gripes of the hardware usage, the TPM is one of them, and there's been conversations multiple times and blog posts and Reddit discussions, and the TPM is not going anywhere, and we're going to take a look at a quick article and a Reddit post just to talk about that. So here is a Reddit post in the Windows 11 subreddit, and of course it's mentioning that Microsoft is going to say that the TPM usage is not going anywhere, and without that TPM, your Windows system is not going to work. It links to a Tom's Hardware post, which just gives you some information about the TPM. Now again, remember, we're saying that without a TPM on the computer, we're not going to be able to run the operating system. Linux doesn't care about this. So pretty much what this is saying is you need to have a computer from at least 2016, I would say, or on, or you're not going to be able to run Windows 11 on it. Linux doesn't care. I could pull out a computer from 2000s and probably earlier and run some sort of Linux distro on it. It's going to work really well. Another one I mentioned is just the basic lack of my privacy, and that's where Windows just doesn't care. And over here is a site that talks about the telemetry that occurs on Windows, and it also breaks down for other systems, so we can compare it both ways. But of course, we're pointing the finger at Windows today, so that's where we're going. So if we come down to Windows, we could read through some of the stuff that Windows is doing most likely without you knowing on your own computer and invading your privacy. So here it is, just saying again, you need to sign in. Here's one saying how it's uploading your files to the cloud, so you probably might not realize, but you're putting it in a folder that's backed up to OneDrive. You're signed in on the computer now, it's uploading to their OneDrive share, and there's plenty more, and you can read through these if you want. And like I mentioned, it's not just on Windows, it is happening in other places, and you can read through here and take a look. Another one I mentioned was Windows just forcing updates on you. So here's another article just talking about how Microsoft will just hop in and say, hey, it's time to install these updates, and you might be in the middle of doing something, and you might not be able to push it back, or it might force you to do a reboot. So here's just another link that we could read through about the issue of updates. Now, I've had firsthand experience to see how Windows updates have broke systems and everything else. If you might have noticed in the last 8 months or so, or a year, people have been updating their Windows pretty much right after Patch Wednesday, and when the Windows updates come out, we saw an increase in SSDs failing and other hardware, and it correlated too well to when Windows updates were coming out compared to hardware just failing. Really leads me to believe that there was something in those updates that wasn't fully tested and was causing the hard drives to end up being destroyed during the update and afterwards from running the new software. I don't have any solid links or articles to read through for this, but this is just something that I've seen too many times to say it's not a coincidence. Again, I'm not just here to have the point and the finger party at Microsoft, but it can happen on any operating system, but it just seems to happen too often on Windows. Now that I'm kind of done talking about my gripes with Windows, I'm going to talk about Linux a little bit, and we're going to talk about some of the distros and what I've been using recently. If we come over here to the next section of this write-up, I have a list of different distros that you could check out, and I'm going to kind of rank them from more beginner-friendly to maybe a little more advanced and not as beginner-friendly. Linux Mint is going to be one of them, and the very common one to use is Cinnamon. This is actually what I've been using, and honestly have a really good experience with it. If we come over to my Proxmox server, we can see I actually have it running, and I know it shows it pinned, but it's just something wrong with the QEMU agent. It's not actually pinned, and it's working really well. I'm running this VM on 2 cores of CPU, 6 gigs of memory, and a 50 gig hard drive, and honestly, it's just running really smoothly. I haven't had any issues so far. When I compare that to my Windows 11 machine, I had to have 4 cores and 6 gigs of RAM. Now, I used to originally, when I was really daily driving this machine, I had it at 6 cores, and I think at one point I had 12 gigs of memory. A couple of months ago, I cut it down to 8 to try to free up some more resources for some other projects I was running, and now again, I've dropped it down to 6, and now I'm not really using this machine. The boot disk is 250 gigs, and that was just because at the time I wanted to give myself more room for local storage, and I didn't really have a lot of network storage at the time. But still, I would probably need at least 100 to 120 gigs to be comfortable to run this machine every day with how I wanted to. If we notice over here, like I said, I have a 50 gig hard drive. This computer's running really smoothly. Another option is Ubuntu Desktop. This is pretty much where everybody gets their start. At some point, whether you went to school or you were just trying to mess with Linux the first time, this is probably where you started. It's a really good distro. It has long-term support. Like I said, it's the one that everybody thinks of when you say Linux. Fedora is another option. I know it's very popular. It's not one that I've checked out just yet, but it is another option for a desktop environment in Linux. Pop! OS is another really good option. This is where we're starting to get a little more intermediate. It has a lot of additional features that are built into it. It has better driver support for NVIDIA graphics, and it's a very simple setup. I did actually mess with this a couple times over the years. I just never got too into it. My biggest issue was always how I would connect into my Linux machines, and I think really drove me away was it wasn't easy enough when I was testing with them originally to really like it. I bet if I went back and I tried it again, I'd probably like Pop a lot. And then of course we have Arch. Everybody's talked about Arch at one point in their Linux journey. It's just never intrigued me to have to mess with the distro so much to make it work and all this stuff. I do hear really good things about Arch. I've seen a lot of cool things from Arch, but it just doesn't interest me right now enough to mess with it. Over here, I just have a quick comparison if you're interested in, a brief overview. One thing I do want to talk about is how you can connect to a Linux machine. So you can't just RDP into it. You have to install extra services, or you have to use like a VNC connection to get into it. And that's where no machine can really come in. This was a program that I stumbled across while I was doing some research of how to connect to it. And you can see it just is a VNC viewer. It works really nicely. You can download it on a Windows computer or another computer. and you can connect into your Linux machine. This is what no machine would look like, and it actually was able to search my local network and find this Linux Mint machine, and that's how it's going to connect to it. That's because VNC is open on it, so I'm assuming it's just finding an open VNC port, and that's how it's connecting. But you can see I can just come over here and connect, and now we can go into my Linux Mint machine. It does have a little pop-up, almost like this little team viewer kind of thing, but it's not. It's just saying, hey, somebody connected to the machine. And over here you can see we have my Linux Mint machine. It looks very similar to a Windows desktop. It's just a simple machine. Everything's a lot easier. I have my taskbar similarly how it used to be on the good Windows machines back in 10 and previously, where it's over here on the left. We have our settings and some stuff like that. We have all of our apps. I don't have too much on here right now because I don't do a ton, but I do have like Discord. I have VS Code, I believe. I have the Office apps. I have everything that I need really to work. I have Brave, so I can come over here and I can do my web browsing. And I know I was mentioning before about my resources. So if I come over here into the command line and I just open up BTOP really quick, you can see I'm only using about 3 gigs, and it's going to show me all my processes. So it is running really lightweight. We're only using about 18% of my CPU, and I'm barely using any of the hard drive. So this is a really lightweight distro. It's working really nicely, and I have to say I've been really happy with it so far. One last thing I want to mention about this write-up is here's all the links to any of the articles that I mentioned. And like I said, there may be updates to this write-up as we go. We'll see how this goes with all of this. While I was editing this video, I realized I'm a silly goose, and I forgot to talk about the biggest difference between Linux and Windows. And that's going to be the price. I might have touched on it in the beginning and I don't remember, but Linux is free and you do have to pay to use Windows. Don't get me wrong, there are certain Linux distros that you do need to pay for, like Red Hat and a few other ones, and that's because you're getting significant features in those that you're not in others. But let's just take a quick look at the cost of a Windows 11 license and compare that to my free license of Linux Mint. I have to tell you, I haven't looked at the price of a Windows 11 license or any Windows license, and I don't really know how long. And I am blown away because Windows 11 Home is $140. And you don't even get an install disk. You just get to download it from the site. And maybe you want Pro because you want to be able to RDP into your computer. I hope you have the extra $199 laying around to buy a Windows 11 Pro license. This is crazy to me. So yeah, I'm going to keep running Linux in the time being. So yeah, I'm trying to break up with Windows and move over to Linux, and I have to say so far it's been a pretty good experience. Like I said, I can't fully cut ties, unfortunately. My main workstation at home is going to stay Windows for the foreseeable future until we have a little bit more support for Linux for gaming and some of my other programs I need. So there are going to be programs like Photoshop, I know is one of them, and some other probably niche programs that you might use for certain tasks that aren't used on Linux just yet. But hopefully in the future we will see them moved over and available to be ran. If you've been somebody who's using Linux maybe as a daily driver, what distro are you using? So comment that down below because I'm always looking for something new to check out, and maybe you're using a better distro that I might want to move over to and check out. But yeah, that's pretty much why I've broken up with Windows and what I've been doing to get away from Windows. I want to thank you all for watching. As always, I'll have links to all the gear in my home lab down below if you want to check any of it out. I'll have a link to that GitHub write-up if you want to check that out as well. I'll have a link to the Discord server if you want to join. Again, I want to thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and as my buddy Don would say, hack till it hurts.